After a 2-year hiatus, Jackbox is finally back with their 11th pack. Contrary to most of their packs, this one includes 5 brand new games and has no repeats or sequel games. In this video, I'll be talking about every game, ranking them from my favorite to least favorite, and giving my overall verdict on whether or not I think you should consider picking this pack up or not. So I guess first of all, in the title of this video, I do use the word multi-generational. It's kind of a fancy schmancy word, but I'm just going to be talking about these games from, I guess, 2 different perspectives, that of my own and my parents who also play with me. We are generally a bit more better at technology, and I'll be talking about it through that, and I'll also be talking about my grandparents who play. They're not so good with technology, and the reason I even consider bringing them up is mostly because I know some people play with families and stuff, and sometimes, I think tech stuff can be a bit of a concern with these packs for, how good they are for those kinds of audiences. So I'm just trying to give my thoughts on how they kind of perceive these games and how they were able to kind of pick them up and play them. Just, I guess, to help give people guidance on that, since I know that a lot of people play these games with their families, especially with the holidays coming up. So this will just be my thoughts on how both groups of us all kind of perceive these games and how easy or hard they were. So that's it, I guess, and I'll get started with the ranking right now. So in 5th place, I think my least favorite game for this pack would probably just be Legends of Trivia. This is just a trivia game, and I'm going to be honest, I just don't care for the trivia genre in Jackbox. My one really particularly, I guess, unpopular opinion is that I just don't care for Trivia Murder Party. I know a lot of people love that one. I've tried it a few times, and it just doesn't click. I'm just not a big fan of it. Legends of Trivia is a pretty good game. I feel like this pack is really good in general. Everything is a hit to some degree. Everything just feels really decent, honestly. Legends of Trivia, it's like a team trivia, so if you like that, you might enjoy this. But you answer questions, and the goal is to defeat monsters by answering questions and getting them correctly. It's somewhat turn-based. It's kind of like an RPG meets trivia type thing, where it's turn-based and stuff. It's pretty fun for that, and I think if you have people who play RPG games and like trivia, you'll probably have a lot of fun with this one. As for how everyone in my group perceived it, I mean, obviously my parents and I had no issue with this game. It wasn't really that complicated for either of us. Both of us are somewhat familiar with RPG games. My grandparents had a bit of a tougher time with this. They kind of found it a little too fast-paced for their liking, and I think since they've obviously never really played any RPG games, I think they found it more confusing than just flat traditional trivia. So think something like, I guess, You Don't Know Jack, or maybe Time Dreams from Pack 10. Those they tend to do better with, but this one I think they were just confused in general and kind of weren't really picking up on the idea of it being an RPG game somewhat. But I think overall it's not terribly complicated. I think if I went in giving them a better idea of what you were doing, they might have gotten it better, but it kind of lacks that sense of intuitiveness for them that I think could be really a make or break kind of thing for these kinds of games. So I think this is probably my least favorite, but as I said, the bar is really, really high for this pack. I thought this one was a very good pack, so yeah, those are my thoughts overall for Legends of Trivia. So 4th up, I think the next game would probably be Suspectives. This one was good. This was a social deduction game where you start by answering a bunch of survey questions that are multiple choice. And then after everyone's done, someone just randomly gets assigned as a criminal, and you basically use their survey answers that they put in to try and guess who was the criminal. So it's kind of like a guess who game, just using, kind of somewhat vague survey answers. I'm personally not a huge fan of social deduction games, but this one was pretty fun. I think I prefer the other 3 games more, but this was pretty good, honestly. As for the multi-generational stuff, just because that's kind of an important part of this review for me and just giving my overall takes. As I said, my parents were a bit confused by the concept at first, but once I kind of explained what you were meant to do, they clicked with it a lot better. My grandparents didn't understand this one at all. They just didn't know what to do. My grandmother was the one who actually got picked as the criminal, and she didn't even know she was the criminal for the whole game, even though we kind of figured it out just based off of her survey answers. So I don't know if I'd recommend this if you have, granted, you could always try them. That's what I did, but this one didn't really click for my grandparents. They just found it really confusing and a little bit just a little too confusing. And as I said, they're not really good with technology. They kind of find this stuff a bit too abstract. So maybe for older people, this one might not be a hit, but I think if you have younger people who really know each other, this one's going to be a blast. I thought this one was pretty good, and I think I'd probably be willing to try this one out again. Granted, with all these games, obviously, because they just came out, but I definitely would check this one out again, and I think this one is really good, honestly. It's just that I kind of prefer the other games more for replayability, just overall like entertainment and how much I'd actually want to come back to them. And then for my third game, I would personally give it to Cookie House. This is a drawing game where you make cookies based off of like very like strange concepts or like design ideas. I think this one's really fun. I'm usually like, I'm kind of mixed on drawing games. Sometimes they're a hit, sometimes they're a miss. My personal favorite drawing game is Patently Stupid from Pack 5, but this was pretty good. And this one, I like the, I kind of like how you're kind of encouraged to like really get creative with like the cookie molds, since you get extra points and stuff for drawing more challenging shapes and stuff. I was a big fan of that. It's pretty funny too. Like you kind of just draw cookies and then you vote on your favorite. This one's fun, you know. As for everyone, this one was a hit pretty much among everyone. My grandmother doesn't like drawing games at all, but she had a decent time with this. I don't think it was her favorite, but I don't think she'd be mad if I popped this one open. My parents, as I said, didn't have an issue. They know how to draw. You know, as long as you're not taking it too seriously, which pretty much helped us kind of understand these games and get them more seriously and just have more fun with them, you're gonna have a decent time with Cookie House. I thought it was fun. I like the drawing aspect of it. Some games I feel like kind of require like a bit of idea of how you're drawing. Like this one doesn't. As long as you kind of draw something silly and goofy looking, you'll do fine. So I think Cookie House was pretty good. I was a fan of this one. So number 2 is Hearsay. I really enjoyed this one. I'm gonna be honest, this was very funny. I was pretty excited for this one, but I was also a bit worried. Like, for what it's worth, I think my main problem was like, I didn't know how this one would do in person, since I pretty much only play Jackbox Games in person. They're all on my Switch, and I don't have anyone online to play with, so I was a bit worried how this one would be. I think that was the only big issue with this one, is that I don't think the microphones really filter out other sounds. So if you're playing in like a big room, I think this one might be a bit tricky to like filter out noises. This one kind of feels like the first Jackbox game that just truly feels built to be played online, which I think is kind of the major issue with this one. However, what we did pretty much just to remedy this was we would just leave the room and do our recordings. We turned off all the timers, that way we didn't have to stress about like being too fast or anything, so we kind of played it slow that way, and we actually had a really good time with this one. I think the only thing I didn't really care for were the intermission rounds. However, I know you can turn them off if you go into the game settings. Like, I guess for the intermission rounds, you kind of just sit there and make noises and you get points if you do it quick enough. I feel like it kind of get boring and like repetitive, but the actual game itself is pretty fun. It'll have you like make a noise, and then it plays everyone's sounds, and then it puts them to like a random clip. It's really funny, honestly. They don't do sound games much. I think the last one was Earwax from Pack 2, and I think this one just kind of blows that game like out of the water completely. But as I said, I think this one's really fun if you have, you know, I guess, how do I say it? My main thing going into this one also was like my voice, like, you know, although honestly, like, I feel like in general just doing these videos and stuff has given me thicker skin against hearing my own voice. So playing this one after kind of having more resilience against having to hear my voice, especially it being kind of used in like this kind of funny light, did take a bit of thickening of my skin, but like it's pretty fun, honestly. I really liked Hearsay. It was a pretty unique game, and honestly, I would definitely consider opening this one up if I was having, you know, people over for a party. This was really fun. And just to add, because I somehow completely forgot to even bring up like how, you know, how everyone played, this one was fine across the whole board. Nobody, including my parents or my grandparents or me, really had any issues with the technology or finding it confusing or abstract. Everyone found it really easy to play, and we all had a very good time playing this one. So I give this one a thumbs up if you're looking for something that like anyone could play easily, especially if you have people who struggle a bit with technology overall. And I think my favorite from Pack 11 has just been Doominate, honestly. I was thinking it was either going to be this one or Hearsay, and I think I'm going to give it to Doominate. In my video about my Switch retrospective video, I actually brought up that I really like Survive the Internet and Quiplash, and this just feels like a love child of those two games. I think what I really enjoyed about this game is I think it fixes a lot of what Survive the Internet kind of didn't do right, and also, you know, takes some other aspects from Quiplash that make that game so good and kind of just mixes them together, which, I mean, that kind of just sums up the love child thing. But a common thing I hear a lot for Survive the Internet is that sometimes, like, I guess for someone who's never played, what happens is you get a question, like just a general life question about anything. You answer said question, and then you kind of mix up the questions, and everyone gets what you wrote for your answer without getting the question, and then you're kind of expected to like twist what they wrote to make them look ridiculous. So it's very, very, very funny when you do it right, but sometimes you just get really bad prompts or just stuff that you can't even twist without like kind of getting something like just, you just don't get good stuff sometimes, and it's really hard to twist it. Even when you try to think outside the box and think of something really, really good, it's just sometimes stuff is just too vague or too much of like word salad to even like get anything. I think this one fixes it in the sense that like you're always given like a good prompt, like you're always given something that you're able to ruin or twist or just make like bad, because the whole way this game works is that you're just twisting, or I guess ruining is better. You're just taking something nice and just putting a twist on it that makes it like, oh, I don't want to do that. It's really fun. So for the first round, it gives you more general like words to work with, and then the second round it has you pick like your own favorite things, and then has you twist or it has like other people twisting those, which is really, really fun, especially if you know the people you're playing with, and you could get like really personal and a bit more like, I guess you could like insult people or make fun of them, and I think that's going to be very funny if you really know the people you're playing with. And then in the final round, you take one of those things that you've ruined and then kind of unruin it. I really, really enjoyed this one. As for like all my group when we played, nobody had issues with this one. It was very simple. Like, we're all very familiar with Quiplash. We're all pretty familiar with Survive the Internet, so this one was pretty good across the whole board, honestly. Like, there was no issues with like the tech being too hard or anything being too confusing or abstract. This one was very simple, very quick. This was really good, honestly. Like, I would definitely like keep coming back to this one in the future, even if like generally I feel like I have like one game that I tend to open up each pack for. Like, for example, like pack 7 I pretty much only open for Quiplash. Pack 4 I basically only open for Survive the Internet. Like, I think that even in the future, if I kind of start to care less about the Pack 11 games, I think this one I just come back for Doominate, maybe Hearsay, and maybe Cookie House. I'd probably want to check out Suspectives and Legends of Trivia again, maybe at least once or twice, especially since Legends of Trivia does have like like more levels to go through once you kind of finish. So I think that one gives you a good replay value, but overall, I really enjoyed Doominate. I thought that one was my favorite overall. I think this one will probably be a hit. It's just nice and simple and just really enjoyable. So yeah, I think that's my overall views on this pack. So I'll get into my overall conclusions now and if I think you should buy it or not. So overall, I actually really, really enjoyed Pack 11, as I've said multiple times before. I think there's enough games here that if you're playing with people who don't really are, or I guess who are just not really that great with technology, you're still going to get a lot of good stuff out of this. Like, as I said, my grandparents don't really use tech that much. They don't play on computers that much, but they were able to sit down and play a lot of these games with a decent amount of ease. I said the only one that they really seemed to like struggle on were Legends of Trivia and Suspectives. But for what it's worth, maybe we'd do better if we kind of went back to them. But as I said, I could kind of tell I could kind of generally gauge which ones they pick up on and which ones they don't. And yeah, I think those two didn't really seem like hitters with us, but if you have people you're playing with who are younger, or you have people who just kind of understand these games, I think overall you get a lot for this pack. I think personally it's worth it. You could always consider waiting, especially since these games go on sale like literally like every other week. Like, I'd be surprised if these like weren't on sale at least like once before, like at minimum before the year's over. Especially with like November and like Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up, like I'd imagine that most people, like, I guess if you don't need them that quickly, you could always hold off and wait till then, and I guarantee you they'll probably be on sale at least once. But for what it's worth, I'm not too sure, but $30 isn't a horrible price. Like, I paid the full price. It was really worth it. I really, really enjoy this pack. This is probably one of my favorites overall. I think this one has a lot of pretty solid hits. Like, I really enjoyed everything. It doesn't feel like there's any, like, dud games. Like, sometimes the packs will kind of have one game where, like, this just sucked. Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I didn't really like, Fixie Text from Pack 10. I thought that game wasn't really fun. Trying to think what else. I guess Zeepo Dome Pack 5 was, like, bleh. Like, this game just doesn't have any duds, which I'm really impressed by. Like, usually it feels like there's just one game that's just, like, really disappointing, and that pack, or this pack just doesn't feel like it has that. So overall, I really, really recommend this pack. If you enjoy playing Jackbox stuff and you have family who really enjoys playing Jackbox stuff, you're going to have a great time, and I think it was really worth the wait. So I think that's overall my thoughts on this pack. And overall, this video actually goes live on Halloween, so if you're celebrating, then happy Halloween. I hope you have fun. Let me know in the comments if you're doing anything special, what you think of this video, if you've played the pack, what you think, if you're looking forward to buying the pack, what you even just think of Jackbox stuff in general if you've played. But that's everything, I guess, and there's not much else to say, so I guess I'll end now, but thank you for watching.